Today, we're going to cover the operation of the PM400 mobile radio that is currently in your tractors, transports, and other auxiliary vehicles. The PM400 is a 45-watt VHF 64-channel analog radio. The approximate range of the PM400 is approximately 15 to 35 miles to a dispatch center via the South Carolina Forestry Commission repeater network, or approximately 5 to 15 miles mobile to mobile based on terrain. First, we're going to look at the operation of the radio. We'll start with the volume on and off switch. Notice the lights come on whenever the radio is turned on, and your pre-programmed home channel comes on the display, and also audibly you hear 2 beeps. Second is the rocker switch. The rocker switch goes up or down and actually selects the channel that you'd like to operate on, both transmit and receive. The 4 buttons on the bottom are multi-purpose buttons. We'll cover those further in the presentation, but these have dual purpose, either a short press or a long press function. The microphone headset connector is a standard computer RJ45 type connection. This is where you plug your microphone or your headset. On the rear of the radio, on the left, is the antenna connection. It is a screw-on type of connector. One of the common problems we see a lot is over time and vibration, the connector becomes loose. Please make adjustments to this by turning it clockwise periodically and making sure the connector is tight and snug. Second, we have the power connector. This connection powers the radio, and as you just heard, the radio powered off and came back on again to your home channel. This is the speaker connection. This is a proprietary Motorola 16-pin speaker connector that is very difficult to insert and remove. Please be very careful if your connector comes out. If you have any trouble, please notify the communications department. We'll be glad to assist you with this. We have just looked at the rear of the radio, and one important thing we'd like to look at is the side of the radio, the screws that are holding the radio in the bracket. These are metric screws. They are 5 millimeters in diameter, and they're approximately 8 to 10 millimeters long. One of the common problems that we find is if someone loses their screw, they'll replace it with an 8/32 or a screw that's very close in size on the SAE scale, and the threads inside the radio mount will be stripped, and in some cases the whole chassis is damaged. So if you lose your screw, please call communications and either have us mail you one or have us bring you one, or either purchase a 5 millimeter screw from your local hardware store to replace it. The microphone on the PM400 has a special switch in the rear, which allows the radio itself to turn and turn off the scan mode, which we'll be discussing further in our video. If this switch gets corroded whenever it makes contact with the mating microphone clip, the radio will not scan properly. One of the common problems we see in the repair of the system, which yields the microphone to be replaced. To initiate a call on the PM400, it's obvious that you remove the microphone from the hanger. The green flashing light will go away if the radio's on scan. And you will press the button to transmit. When you press the button to transmit, the red light will come on. Whenever you finish transmitting, the red light will disappear. When you finish your transmission, please hang your microphone back up in the hanger. This is a special hanger that will allow the radio to go back into the scan mode. The first button that we're going to examine is P1. Again, this is a multifunction button. P1 has a short press function and a long press function. The short press function is scan on and off. This radio is currently scanning a predetermined scan list from Richland County with Lake Murray as the primary and home channel. To turn the scan off, where you would only operate on Lake Murray only, press P1. To reactivate the scan list, press P1 short again. The second function of the P1 button is called nuisance delete. What is called a nuisance delete by folks at the Motorola company is not necessarily a nuisance. What that is described as is a secondary channel that you're monitoring or scanning, and you don't want to hear chatter from that channel. Let's say a fire department is talking on a channel and you need to focus on communication that is taking place on a forestry frequency. You would use this button termed as nuisance delete to remove that fire department channel temporarily. Here is a demonstration of the nuisance delete. For our demonstration purposes, Lake Murray is our primary forestry channel we want to monitor, and Johnston's going to be our nuisance channel, or the channel that we really don't want to hear the transmission on because we're focusing on transmissions from Lake Murray.
How's that fire doing on that side of it?
I don't want to hear about that, so I'm going to...
Good and strong?
I was able to remove that by mashing the P1 button and holding it down. To re-put that channel back into the list, simply turn the radio off and turn it back on, and that channel will be back in the list. The nuisance delete is only good for the power cycle that you're currently operating. In other words, as long as the radio was powered on after you've nuisance deleted that channel, the channel will be gone. As soon as you turn the power off and turn the power back on that radio, that nuisance delete channel is back in the list because you don't want to get rid of it for good, you just want to get rid of it temporarily. The next two buttons we're going to talk about is P2 short and P3 short. We're going to combine these for this presentation because their functions are very similar. P2 short goes to your home repeater, which is, in this case, Lake Murray. In Richland County, P3 is TAC3, which is the home tactical channel for that county. These frequencies and channels are predetermined by the communications department and your supervisor. Again, very simple. P2, home repeater. P3, home tactical. The P2 long press function has several layers of operation in the scanning procedure. It is the way that we actually edit the scan list. First, we press P2 for about a second or so and just hold it in until we see the word View List come up. This is a menu within itself. If we use our up and down arrows, we have View List, Edit Priority, Delete, Add Item, and back to View List. So again, there are 4 items in this menu: View List, Add Item, Delete Item, and Edit Priority. Now we'll cover each of those in depth. The first item we're going to look at in the menu that we talked about with 4 items is View List. When we view the list, we can actually see what's in the scan list currently before we make any changes. And it's recommended that we do that before we make changes. Press P2 and the first member will display. Use your up and down arrows to show what's in the scan list. In this particular radio, we have Piedmont Ops, Johnston, Lexington 1, TAC 6, TAC 5, TAC 4, TAC 2, Fairfield 1, Lake Murray, TAC 3, and the selected channel. You always want to have the selected channel included in your scan list. If you don't have the selected channel in your scan list, what will happen is if you press scan and then you go to another channel such as, say, Andrews or MacBee that is not in the scan list, when you press scan, you will not be able to receive those channels because the selected channel was not shown. What you also just saw was the radio just bumped and told me that my time was up. I'm going back to my normal mode of operation. There is a time limit to view the list and to make changes. Whenever the time limit expires, you've got to start the process over, but that's okay for the purpose of this video. It won't hurt to see it again. Press and hold P2 long. It comes up by default view list. We'll press P2 short now, and we see the list again. So we've basically seen what's in our radio scan list. Whenever you're finished looking at your list of items in the scan list, to exit, press P1. Short. A short press of P1 will put you back in radio operation mode that's normal. The next item we're going to consider is adding an item to the scan list. Again, P2 long. It comes up by default, view list. Use your up and down arrows till you get to add item. Press P2 short. Then you can actually look through the full 64 channels of the radio and see what you'd like to add to your list. Let's say, for demonstration purposes, we would like to add the Forestry Commission's newly commissioned incident repeater to the list. It is selected on the screen. You press P2 short, and the word added comes in. So if we go back, exit the scan list mode, go back into the scan list mode, by a long press, a short press now to view the list, we should see the instant repeater, which we do in the actual scan list. So that is the procedure for adding a channel into the scan list. Now we've decided we've had the instant and we don't want to have the instant channel in our scan list. How do we remove it? Press P2 long, go back to view list. We select the word delete. Short press, go through our list. There's incident. We want to remove incident. P2, short press. Do we want to really delete this? It asks you so you don't accidentally do it. And basically in this case, P2 would function as a yes. P1, or our exit key, functions as a no. We'll say yes. And by saying yes, the word deleted comes on the screen. So if we go back and look at our list again, we will find the instant repeater has been deleted. To exit the scan mode at any time, press P1. This is the ultimate exit for the P2 long press. As you see, when you get into the scan list menu to exit it, P1 puts you back to normal. So if you're in the scan list and you get confused, you don't know where you're at, please press P1 and that'll put you back to normal, with the normal operation of the basic radio. As we continue with the scan list programming by pressing P2 for the long period and having the menu, one item that we do not use a lot in the Forestry Commission, some people use it, some people are versed with use it. You have to be very, very careful using it, is the priority function. If you have the wrong priority channel programmed in your radio, you will end up missing important information that you should be listening to by listening to something else. For example, you may have a fire department set up as a priority. It timed out, so you only have about 15 seconds to make your change and it goes back to normal. If you have a fire department and you set a fire department as a priority, and as much as fire departments talk on the radio, you would miss your transmissions critical to your fire suppression of the Forestry Commission work. So it's definitely not recommended that a fire department be used as a priority channel. A tactical channel or home repeater is a possibility. Again, it's an item to be discussed with the communications department or your supervisor. But even on fires, there have been times that a tactical channel has overridden a repeater channel when dispatch is called, and it's been a situation that a person has missed a critical call. So use this very carefully, but for the purpose of this video, we will show you how it functions. Long press 2, since I talked a long time and it timed out. Edit priority. Radio has two priority channels, priority 1 and priority 2. It's got this funny looking symbol here, that's supposed to be a number sign. Looks like an H with an extra line in the middle, but priority 1 and priority 2. To set priority 1, hit P2 short, and we see it's disabled. Priority 1 is disabled in this radio. Let's say we want to make Johnston the priority channel. Johnston has been made the priority 1 channel. To check our work to see if the priority channel has been set, we can press P2 long. Go to edit priority. Look at priority 1. We see Johnston's in the priority channel. Exit to get out of that menu. Let's say we want to set a priority 2 as TAC 6. Long press, go through view list, edit priority. Up and down select priority 2. Short press 2. It's currently disabled. TAC 6. The priorities are only select priority channels from the scan list, not the full deck of 64 channels. And that's also saved. Exit. What we want to do in this particular radio now is remove the priority channels, which should be a relatively simple procedure. We have just set two priorities in this radio. The priorities have priority over each other. Priority 1 has more priority over priority 2. And that's one of the reasons we don't use the priorities, because it's very easy to get tangled up. But for the purpose of this presentation, we will show you how to remove priorities. By some slight chance, you get a priority programmed in your radio and it's causing you a lot of grief and you think your radio's broke. You may want to check this if you find you're hearing certain channels and you're not hearing other channels. Go into the scan list setup. Go to, by the up and down rockers, go to edit priority. And I will note that edit priority is its own operation. It has nothing to do with add item, delete item, or view list. It is a total separate operation. Edit priority, short press 2. Delete priority 2 first. Currently it's set for TAC 6. We want it to be disabled. Short press 2. Saved. It has been removed. Scroll down to priority 1. Short press 2. It's on Piedmont Ops. We want to disable it. Select disabled. Short press 2. Saved. And as usual, when we finish editing the scan list or the priority list, P1 returns the radio back to normal operation. There's a function on the radio that's available, but it's typically not programmed because of confusion factor, and that's P3 long. It is a repeater talk around function. Normally, whenever a radio is programmed for repeater, it talks through a repeating station which may be miles away to repeat the signal back out in a large geographic area. However, there may be times that you want to transmit just across the street on that same channel. There's a function called talk around. We do not use talk around in the Forestry Commission system. However, on certain fire departments in some locations we do. And typically we don't, but the function is there in the radio. And if you don't get a beep and you get a bump, then it's not programmed. Typically in the PM400 transport tractor auxiliary vehicles, this function is not used, but I just wanted to make it known what that function was and why you get that beep if you press that button long. The P4 button has dual functions, but they're similar functions. The Forestry Commission uses what's known as coded squelch. Only a particular code embedded in the transmissions of the radio signals will allow the audio to pass through to the speaker. As most folks have experienced, there's a lot of other signals that can be received by our radios well within our coverage area. In order to take care of that, the radios have a monitor function or a block function for this. To further explain, if you see a small speaker symbol and you see a yellow light, your radio's in the monitor function. That means you can hear numerous signals on this particular channel. An example that we won't show here, yes we will, we'll show Johnston. Johnston is on the same channel as the catch-all repeater, it's on the same channel as the Glassy Mountain repeater, and it's on the same channel as the Cottageville repeater. With this light on and this speaker symbol, you will be able to hear all four of those repeaters at the same time if you're in the right geographic area of the state. If this light is extinguished with P4, which is also the default position, you shouldn't see this under normal conditions, then you'll only receive the Johnston repeater in this case. If you want to listen to a channel and hear if there's some interference or something coming in, or you're having trouble, you may want to utilize this function to open up the channel to see where this interference may be coming from. Also, if you've got a very weak signal coming in, it is possible to mash the button and hold it to do away with all squelch signals. This is rarely used, but it's available. Now that we've completed the basic operation of the PM400, let's talk about several of the things that can go wrong out in the field as you, the firefighters, may experience one day. One of the most common problems we have is the antenna, which is on the top of the tractor, snaps off of its mount. As you see, the antenna is a screw-on, and we'll make the assumption that the tabletop here is the top of the tractor. What we have here is the actual mount that is a replaceable item in the field that your supervisors may or may not have, and we can supply them with at any time. Take the antenna, and actually screw it on. Another problem that we face with the PM400s is the radios will no longer scan, and the most common culprit of the scan issue is the corrosion of either the microphone clip or the corrosion and the failure of the sensitive switch in the back of the microphone connector. To repair this, we either provide you with a microphone clip for you to replace or a replacement microphone. Another rare problem, but occasionally a problem with the PM400, is the radio will not turn on. And a lot of times it may be related to a spike or something in the engine compartment, which causes the 15 amp fuse shown here to what people say is blow or actually open up, so the circuit is not making connection. Simply replace the fuse with a like 15 amp fuse. Today we have covered the basic operation and troubleshooting of the PM400 radio. If you have any further problems with your radio, please contact your supervisor and allow them to determine if the communications department needs to be contacted.